Good evening, everyone. Severe Weather 29 meteorologist Nathan John joining you for this edition of Nate at 8. Avoiding the rain for the most part today, but those rain chances, they just only continue as we go into the weekend and still dealing with, while not a lot, and most of us staying dry, still that more isolated shower and thunderstorm present in locations south of I-70 for this evening. So we'll break that down from what does remain for this evening, as well as rain chances in general as we go into the weekend. Severe thunderstorm, flooding, well, that potential remains with us as well as we go through the weekend. And yes, remaining on the warm and humid side during the stretch as well. We'll break down those temperatures and that humidity as well coming up for this edition of Nate at 8. Again, thanks so much for tuning in. Without further ado, let's jump into things. Starting off with the temperatures and the humidity. Our temperatures right now falling from the 80s back in the 70s, a little cooler for locations south of I-70. We've dealt with some rain-cooled temperatures. Again, we'll be dealing with some more of those hit or miss showers and thunderstorms in a location south of I-70 in that range of uncomfortable dew points mid-upper 60s present this evening. Now, we can actually see these dew points lower a little bit before picking back up then for the weekend and then lowering a little bit more early on into next week. But right as it stands now with that range of uncomfortable dew points in the upper 60s, you factor it in with the temperatures and it does feel a little warmer than the actual air temperature a little bit further into the 80s. So looking at the dew point forecast, again, just how humid it will be. Again, with respect to what we're dealing with this evening, that humidity can lower just a little bit. It's still rather uncomfortable, though, as we go through Friday, but more uncomfortable than just unbearably horrendous humid. And that's where we were going into a lot of yesterday, and likely not quite to that extent for tomorrow. Now, by this weekend, yes, we are likely back in that range, dew points back near, if not into the 70s, and we're getting back to just that unbearably horrendous humidity levels again as we go throughout the weekend. But notice what happens early next week. So into Monday, and I think it can stick around for most of Tuesday as well, that we are getting back to a little more tolerable humidity levels and nothing refreshing or pleasant, but not quite as horrendous as what we're going to see for the weekend by early next week. By the middle to latter part of next week, though, is when dew points likely will pick back up. So a little relief from it for tomorrow, a little more relief from it early next week. But by the middle to latter part of next week, that's when it just starts to become unbearably humid, likely once again. Now, there's been some questions in terms of the humidity. Again, I did some digging with low temperatures. That Jeff, actually, Chief Meteorologist Jeff Exline, did some digging and look at the dew points themselves. So, I've talked a lot about a string of some mild and warm nights, but how about this statistic that Jeff pointed out with the dew point temperature? So we're looking at the dew point and the record high average dew point of 64.73 degrees from June 1st to July 2nd. So July 16th, excuse me, since yesterday. So what's on record? This is it. So this is it. And like I mentioned, this lines up with the lows as well, right? When we talk about that string of mild lows, which now, including today, we're tied for the most consecutive days with low temperatures, 63 plus for the Wheeling area. Pittsburgh is in second place with the consecutive lows of 64 plus. First place is back in the early 1900s. So, this coincides to dealing with even the string here of mild, warm nights, which again often coincides then with the excessive humidity as well for this time of the year. So yes, this is for the Wheeling area the most humid stretch on record from June 1st through July 16th for the Wheeling area. Previous record was in 1994 with an average dew point 64.54. So the most humid stretch at the beginning of June. We also have to keep in mind, this includes the beginning of June, which we had dew points at the beginning of June, 40s to even 30s. So it was a very dry air initially at the beginning of June. If we cut that data out, this would skew a lot higher. So we'd be looking at an average a lot higher up if we took out the beginning of June, as we still had quite some dry air with us for the beginning of the month. Now, that being said, of course, we got a lot of that, warmth, humidity, a lot of fuel for showers and thunderstorms, right? And we're still watching them. Activity is going to be more isolated. It's going to be more near and south of I-70, but we still are maintaining some this evening, and we're still likely going to maintain some as we go through the overnight as well. So again, the areas to watch this evening into the overnight, especially along south of I-70. We dealt with earlier at the 5-6 o'clock show. If you tuned in, we were tracking those thunderstorms thunderstorms, primarily into Tyler County. There's some showers there, Tyler, Wetzel County, dealing with that heavier shower that now though into Guernsey County, just south there of Cambridge. So that heavier shower south of Cambridge, some lighter showers there that Raiders picking up on into northeastern Noble, and a couple light returns, even though the showers are dissipating, moving through Belmont into Marshall County. So more of a passing sprinkle likely for those areas. But still watching this. The threat for impacts is not quite zero yet for this evening. We're still watching, although the potential for a severe thunderstorm looks pretty low at this point. But we'll still watch for that potential for localized flooding concerns. Just something to monitor here throughout this evening. That risk will likely then fall off overnight. Again, not to say it's a high risk, but just something we'll continue to monitor. The chance isn't, again, quite zero yet, but we'll continue to monitor what does linger here, more isolated for locations south of I-70 as we go throughout the course of this evening. Of course, nothing imminent right now, but just watching that heavier shower into southern Guernsey County. So that's what we're keeping an eye on right now. But in general, these showers aren't sticking around too long, and certainly no real high risk for flooding or severe weather on the way this evening. But this is what we'll continue to monitor here early on tonight before activity continues just to further gradually taper off as we extend overnight into tomorrow morning, likely. Austin, good evening. Hope you and the News 9 crew stay safe from yesterday's night storm. Today was another miserable day. The wind has been blowing like crazy here. It was a bit of breeze today, wasn't it? That certainly helped with heat and humidity, having that bit of a breeze. It looks like the wind tomorrow is going to be much lighter, likely more of a light variable wind tomorrow, but certainly noteworthy to have a little bit of that breeze present for today. Good evening there, Lola. Thanks for tuning in. And Austin says, not liking that record. Me either, Austin. I agree. Hopefully we can have a cooler August. Yeah, I agree with you there, Austin. And we still have August to go. Prayers it is a kinder month, Lola's saying as well. And yes, hopefully. Again, unfortunately, not much relief here in sight going into the second half of July. But like you mentioned, hopefully we can get into a kinder pattern. That's a good way to put it, where we're dealing with at least a mix of some cooler, comfortable nights and not so high a humidity as we do look ahead going into August. And hopefully getting a longer, prolonged period of dry weather as well. Hopefully we can set up for that going into August, even if it does coincide with oftentimes this time of the year. Our real dry spells often coincide with that ridge of high pressure, and then heat builds under the ridge and it starts to get real hot as it's dry. But at least at that point, hopefully we can string together some drier weather coming our way as well. We've just been dealing with these periodic rain chances, of course, just like today, though. Even though we have a chance, doesn't equate to a lot of rain, right? And that's certainly the case still for a lot of these days ahead. There's that chance, but certainly does not equate then to dealing with a lot of rain into these days. So that being said, let's jump into Futurecast, right? Let's start to map out the precipitation going into the weekend. So here for this evening, again, still watch areas along south of I-70, at least leading up towards midnight. We still have that isolated shower and thunderstorm in place. A lot of this then tapers off later tonight into Friday morning. Now, notice throughout the morning into midday hours on Friday, we can deal with a few of these showers and thunderstorms returning that stick around then for the afternoon and evening. And yes, unlike today, that potential is there for both areas north and south of I-70. It's not a specific area for tomorrow like it was for today. Likely north and south of I-70 has a potential for a few showers and thunderstorms. Activity then will taper off outside of something isolated Friday night into Saturday, and then coverage will pick back up on Saturday into the afternoon. It does look like this could hold off until later on into the day Saturday, so maybe even holding off later into the afternoon and the evening. But once this does arrive, these scattered showers and thunderstorms, it does look like these will carry over Saturday night into Sunday morning. So yes, I do think we'll see a little more activity continue overnight than what we've seen as of recent Saturday night. So Danny asking, what about Saturday night? It does look like we'll have those scattered showers and thunderstorms moving in, and we can't, we can deal with at least a few of them continuing overnight into Sunday. So unlike what we dealt with a lot of as recent, I think we can deal with these continuing into a further portion of Saturday night. Again, still hit or miss in nature, but we can have more around than what we've had as of recent. Joe, good evening. Thank you all again for tuning into this edition of Nate at 8. Good evening to all of you, and hopefully had a wonderful day, and hopefully you got have a good day coming up tomorrow. Temperature-wise, we're going to start to trend a little bit cooler from this point, from Friday into the weekend. And again, a little lower humidity Friday, but not a big drop. And then it does just turn unbearably humid again this weekend, unfortunately. But these temperatures really, as we go into the weekend are going to hover closer to 80. We could even hold in the 70s for Friday, but in generally closer around 80 degrees Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday. So to recap again, the weather as we go through the weekend, watch, something isolated continuing this evening, especially south of I-70, into the first half of tonight as well, tapering off likely then into Friday morning, and then watch even early Friday afternoon going through the evening hours on Friday. We could deal with a few of those showers and thunderstorms, the potentials there north and south of I-70. By the weekend, coverage looks to pick up on Saturday, but it's later on into the day, likely second half of the day, if not even towards the evening on Saturday. So we can get mainly dry conditions for the first half as well as into the early afternoon hours on Saturday before further picking up. And those scattered showers and thunderstorms turn likely as the day ends on Saturday. We'll deal with at least a few of them continuing likely overnight Saturday into Sunday, and we'll see activity then pick back up throughout the course of Sunday. Now, by Monday into Tuesday is when we'll likely see rain chances look to thankfully lower. So I think we can string together a couple, mainly if not completely dry days early next week that then coincides with the next drop in that humidity. So just a little bit of a lowering Friday, but I think a further cooler drop in those dew points into Monday and Tuesday. And you'll notice that reflected with those overnight lows. Notice those lows back in the lower 60s, mid-lower 60s. So that's evidence there. Again, that drop in humidity that we'll feel into Monday, continuing into Tuesday. But notice what happens by Tuesday night to Wednesday. Lows are back near 70. And yes, that humidity, those dew points, they ramp back up. So it does start to become more unbearably humid again for the second half of next week. So there's some relief in sight. Not a lot. It's not a big drop, but at least some relief, not unbearably humid at least early next week. And again, not horrendous for tomorrow either. So those are the days early next week and tomorrow where that humidity at least isn't horrendous. But, outside of that, this weekend, middle to latter part of next week, it does look like, yes, it'll be similar. And temperatures next week will look to pick up. Will be closer to 90 as rain chances are picking up into the latter part of next week. Those temperatures pick up a bit as well. And with highs nearing 90, it'll easily feel into the 90s with that humidity, if not even more mid-upper 90s. It's possible when we factor in the heat and the humidity later on to next week. You can feel further into the 90s at that point. And that potential for shower thunderstorm does look to continue then again on a daily basis later next week. So really, again, a lot of the same, unfortunately, from this week to next week. A lot of daily rain chances. A lot of the next week is still uncomfortably to unbearably humid. And again, a lot of what we're seeing this week on tap again, likely for next week. But that being said, right, just like this week, we have daily rain chances, but there's no daily guarantee, right, for these showers and thunderstorms. This time of the year, we're getting into that pattern where activity is more scattered in nature, and that will likely be the case for a lot of the stretch here over the next 10 days. So there's certainly no washout in store as we go over the next 10 days, but we just that more typical summertime pattern where we just have to watch on a daily basis to see, watch for those showers and the thunderstorms. Of course, the emphasis during the stretch likely in the afternoon and evening, where we see a lot of that activity, pop up into the afternoon, continue in the evening, and then a lot of it tapers off overnight. That's what we're going to be on tap for a lot of the next 10 days. Not all of them. And again, I do think activity can linger further into Saturday night. We can get a few of them continuing overnight Saturday. But in general, for a lot of these days ahead, that's what to watch for. Yes, it does look like only a slight chance Monday, Tuesday. I think we can squeeze in some dry conditions those 2 days, but it's still, a slight chance nonetheless. But again, I do think we can squeeze together some couple dry days early next week. Again, that coincides with at least a little drop in that humidity before it picks back up with those temperatures and rain chances later next week. Austin says, looks like next week is going to get a lot hotter. Definitely not looking forward to it. And yeah, especially with respect to the next 3 days when highs are back closer to 80 and really into Monday as well, not far from 80 here over the next 4 days. And yeah, it'll be a noticeable warm up at that point, back closer to 90 into the middle to latter part of next week. Ella there, good evening. Good evening to you and keep up the good work. Donald, thank you. Thank you there. I appreciate that. Appreciate the kind words. Thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Nate at 8. I appreciate it as always. Again, thankfully, conditions are pretty quiet for this evening. And before we say goodbye, let's jump back to looking at what we're tracking on radar. Always a good idea to do this before we say goodbye and see what we are tracking. So currently right now, some light showers moving out of Tyler, Wetzel County. The one area we're watching right now is into southern Guernsey County. then extending to areas into southwestern Belmont. That's south of Barnesville. So really between towards Seneca Lake, that's where we're seeing these heavier showers set up, and then looking east towards Batesville. Northeastern portion of Noble County, south there at Barnesville. So this is where we'll watch those showers as we do extend here near term. Let's look what we dealt with. So looking at the last hour, seeing these develop in. We'll watch this. This is a very slow progressing. So, I think it is noteworthy why I think the severe risk is low, but I think this is worth watching into southern Guernsey County towards west of Seneca Lake near Byesville. It's just south of Byesville, north of Buffalo, there along the I-77 corridor into southern Guernsey County, very close to Noble County. This is the area to watch. You can see very slow progression of this heavy shower. So this is an area to watch. Again, nothing imminent right now, but it is an area to watch. Let's see what radar's estimated in the last hour. Let's see if it's updated. It looks like it hasn't updated yet, unfortunately. Hasn't updated yet. Let's look at another product. Okay, not updating yet, but we'll see when this updates. We'll see what radar is estimating with those rainfall rates. I think that would be an area to watch. Again, not of a high concern, but if we're dealing with anything impactful for this evening, at this point, in my opinion, it's going to be maybe some isolated flooding instances. Again, not a high risk, but if there is anything, that is what to watch for. And again, any area to even monitor. Again, nothing imminent, but if we're getting an area to monitor, this would be it. So we'll watch there towards Pleasant City, Byesville, southern Guernsey County, towards Noble County. We'll watch. If this does backbuild a little bit more and does persist as we extend. Let's see what rainfall rates are for this. So yeah, this is still producing. I mean, these are high rainfall rates, right? And this is even a shower. So that's why I say even within showers, there's still some heavy downpours, thunderstorms, even torrential downpours. I mean, this radar still estimating 2-3 inches or so rainfall rate per hour. That's heavy rain, even within a shower. So we'll watch this. If this continues to backbuild a little bit more, and if this lingers over the same location for the next half hour to 45 minutes or so, then there's a potential to start to see some flooding concerns arise between Pleasant City and Byesville into southern Guernsey County. So that's the one area to watch right now. That's what we'll continue to monitor throughout this evening. If the issue does look to become more imminent and alarming, I'll make sure to, of course, update you. And I urge you to follow. Where can you see that update? Well, just jump back to the 9+1 day forecast. And right here, I'll be updating right here. Nathan Shutt News 9 in Shutt WTOV. So you can catch me on Facebook or on X, and I'll be posting updates as we go throughout the evening on what to watch. And again, if that does become more alarming, more of an imminent concern for flooding, I'll be certainly passing that along to you, posting that update as we go throughout this evening. But, again, at this point, most of us dry, right? Not a high rain threat for this evening, but still just have to monitor too early tonight from what does remain. So still just have to closely monitor from what is lingering early tonight, and then the potential for even flooding likely falls off overnight with a lot of activity, and then it'll pick back up. And yes, on a daily, unfortunately, we still have to watch the potential for a strong to severe thunderstorm that could produce high winds in addition to localized flooding. Both are likely more isolated, but they both have to be monitored every day. So it is just something we're going to be closely watching Friday into Saturday. Now, Sunday, if we could get some rain in the morning and we get that cloud cover in the morning as well, it can cut back on the severe risk on Sunday. Maybe just more of a localized flooding than severe risk Sunday. But in general, for a lot of these days, right, looking ahead even into next week, it's likely a lot of the same story. That is just something to monitor, continuing on a daily basis. And it's a good reason to keep weather aware. Download the Severe Weather T9 mobile app. And of course, it'll alert you of any warnings that were to be issued for your location. Gives you a heads up with rain heading your way, lightning detected near you. Handy tool to have, especially into the more summertime pattern of these more hit or miss showers and thunderstorms for this time of the year. I appreciate all of you tuning into this edition of Nate at 8. Thank you so much. I hope everyone had a wonderful day. I hope you have a great night. Of course, you can catch me coming up News 9 at 10 on Fox Eye, News 9 tonight at 11 for the latest on any lingering showers into the area or any impacts that we could be facing. And of course, follow me on social media there, Nathan Shutt News 9 on Facebook and Shutt WTOV on X. And I'll be posting updates even before the 10 and 11 o'clock tonight, especially with anything more of an imminent threat if we are dealing with any imminent concerns of flooding from these lingering heavy showers that continue into locations south of I-70. I'll make sure to keep you posted on my social media. And as always, for that next edition of Nate at 8, for our Friday evening edition of Nate at 8, I'll be sure to give you the latest on what we're tracking tomorrow and what's coming our way, the latest on that for the weekend. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see all of you on the next edition of Nate at 8.